And here we are. And today's topic, and you're smiling broadly, is humor. And
Humor.
so I'm expecting this to be one of the more entertaining episodes that you and I have ever done, because we're going to talk about sense of humor and the styles and your sense of humor. Um, so, what do you have to say, Mr. Hirsch Rappoon, author, published author? Show your book. He
That's
got his
right. That's
author's
right.
copy.
Selling the truth. Selling the truth. Well, this actually, that's a good segue, Nancy, because there is a lot in the book about humor and comedy and when to use it. And my background in stand-up comedy, we have to accept the fact that stand-up comedy is much, much more liberating than most of us get to enjoy. And so the context that in which we're talking about humor is much more the context of business, and when and how to be funny in business, which I think is something that a lot of people struggle with. I mean, what do you think? What's your experience with humor and personalities and how that all comes together?
But I'm going to answer the personalities in a bit, but right now I want to answer the humor in business, because when I was a member of the National Speakers Association, a great organization for people who aspire to speak nationally or internationally and get paid for it, and they basically said that you don't need humor unless you want to get paid. And so that is my take on humor. Humor in business. It's like a spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down. And so as speakers, as professional speakers, and most of us are thought leaders, our audience is composed of thought leaders. If you want someone to really ponder and think about and take in what you have to say, frame it with humor. What do
Well,
you think?
yeah. Well, here's a tip. So, um, just as people will tell you, um, it's not all about you. It's about the service. It's about your customer. Well, it really is about the audience. You're entertaining or informing or enlightening your audience. You're not a comedian may get on stage and say, I have to get this off my chest, but they're doing it for you. They're doing it to make you laugh. And so I think that a pitfall that business people, speakers, for example, sometimes fall into is that they think this is about them telling you about themselves in a way that's funny. Sure, we can be the butt of the joke. That's great. But it's not about us telling people about us. It's about us picking up on the vibrations of the audience, picking up on the needs of the crowd, reading the room, as we've mentioned previously in one of our other know and sell pointers. Um, so if we really think of it from the point of view of who is this customer? What does they find funny? What's their sense of humor? Then we're already on the right track. Oh, you're muted, Nancy. Did you think that was funny? Thought that was clever to mute yourself?
I did that because I had a barking dog. So I thought,
Oh, okay.
and then
Well,
I thought I had unmuted. But this is a nice segue, though, to the styles of humor, right? Again, there are 4 personality styles, and surprise, surprise, each style has a different sense of humor or what they find funny. And as you just said, and I want to underline and highlight that, is that you want to use the humor for purposes of your audience. It isn't about you being clever or cute or smart, although that is very much the way the number 8 style thinks of humor. They love double entendres. They love wordplay. They love to be cute with their juxtaposition of ideas. They have a dry, witty sense of humor. And it's often based upon the intellectual merits of what they're talking about. Does that make sense to you?
it does, because the combination of intelligence and humor is one of the things I love about working with clients and working one on one and even with groups is that they appreciate the intelligence that comes with satire, with humor, with a play on words. It's because they're engaged in business, they're a little more, let's use the word serious about their interactions. They have a purpose. They're not there to forget about life for a while, right? They're here to actually engage, but they love the fun that gets injected into the process. And that goes back to what you were saying, Nancy, about humor being so important
Yes.
to the process of selling.
Only if you want to get paid. Only if you want to
Right.
earn some money.
Right.
Right?
Well, that is another good point, which is public speaking, paid public speaking in particular, can be a double-edged sword. There's benefits to it.
Yeah.
There's risks associated with it. You're putting yourself out there. You're putting your knowledge out there. In some cases, in unpaid speaking, you're often able to sell more from the stage, but then you have to be using the right touch, and you have to be using that humor for good, I think.
I
And
think humor used for good is always the best way to use humor.
Yeah.
And again, so I mentioned that number 8 style, and for those of you who need a refresher, the numbers represent how many touch points someone needs to make up their mind: 2, 4, 6, or 8. So our 8 is the slowest, most careful decision maker. And so, yes, they love wit and humor that way. Well, our number 6 is that serious, work ethic, duty driven, responsible kind of person. And they actually, they will raise an eyebrow when there seems to be inappropriate humor. They are like, wait, we're here for a serious purpose. And when they are relaxing, believe it or not, slapstick is what appeals to them the most because it breaks the rules. They're very rule bound, very much contained and reserved. And so they love slapstick because the rules are off and they get to laugh at perhaps the absurdity of people carrying on like that.
That's really interesting because the inappropriate, quote unquote, nature of certain jokes is something that comes up quite often with clients. Quite often clients will say to me, I have this inappropriate sense of humor and I need to curb it. I need to make sure that I'm not offending anybody. And humor has become, and I guess it always has been, there's types of humor that are like a naughty kind of indulgence. And if you can walk that line between what's appropriate and what's not, and as we can see actually in the inflammatory situation that took place this week at Madison Square Garden with Donald Trump's rally and the comedian there, that's become a kind of a lightning rod for, just in my circles, in the comedian circles, conversation about, well, what is that line where something is appropriate or not? I'm not making a political commentary. I'm just speaking about the appropriateness of humor. And my rule is, first, do no harm. So if the joke is intended to slight somebody as opposed to make fun of ourselves, then we're already on a dangerous road when it comes to appropriateness. So when we're thinking about appropriateness, it goes back to the audience. What is your customer or your audience or your client or your group of friends that you're engaging professionally with? What do they find offensive, possibly?
Mm-hmm.
And let's honor them.
So this brings us to our number 2 and number 4 buyers. You see, the number 2 is definitely the one that's liable to cut loose with inappropriate, a remark, because first of all, they love attention. Secondly, they are very spontaneous and flexible. And they tend to have very little filter between what they think and what comes out of the mouth. Okay. And so the number 2 is that one who's likely to say those sorts of things. The number 4 is the one who takes offense. Remember, they love people. They're relationship oriented. They're always protecting. There's a cause, who's the butt of that joke, right? It's an elderly person. It's a woman. It's a, African American. I mean, they're very quick to pick up on stuff and then, oh no, we can't do it that way. So again, this gives you a sense that there really is who is your audience? And of course, in a sales situation, you're not playing to, quote, an audience, meaning multiple people. You are usually playing to an individual or a committee, a small group, and hence it's very important for you to know the style of that individual or small group, because humor is a nice lubricant and a nice way of building rapport and connecting, but it can also cut the other way and make people want to run for the hills.
Yeah. So this is interesting in terms of the 4 type, in that they're kind of open personality wise, but am I right but they are protective and kind of hyper vigilant about offense.
The number 4 is that one who is quick to see that it was offensive or potentially offensive. They're the ones more likely, because again, they take things personally,
Right.
So they're very quick to see that, oh, it could hurt somebody, me.
Well, they're empathetic.
Yes, exactly.
They're
exactly.
empathetic.
Mm-hmm.
So it's so interesting when you look at that across the board. It's almost like a minefield.
Yes.
Comedy can be a minefield because you might have personalities that you're dealing with that want to be a little rule breaking. Yeah, a little risque, but not too much. Then there are people who want to engage and take a breather and just kind of let their hair down a little bit. And then there are people who are very empathetic toward what others might be feeling. So how do we navigate this? A lot of deep breaths and a lot of listening. Listening is what I would say. I do that on a one-on-one sales conversation or a meet and greet or a get to know you conversation. I like to create the opportunity for humor. In other words, set them up for a joke. Maybe it's a little bit obvious that you're open, the door that you're opening is a little obvious for them, but let them walk through it or not, because if you lay the groundwork for a joke and they don't take the opportunity or seize that opportunity, it will tell you as much as if they walk through that door.
And again, notice body language, because, talking about humor, you light up. Talking about humor, I've been all smiles. Okay, so there clearly that is a topic that resonates for us, and it adds energy and vigor and dynamics to our relationship. But the other person, for example, a 6, who's pretty serious and very dutiful and responsible, if you see that they're just deadpan, then guess what? Maybe you need to follow suit, right?
It's like it where you say to them, listen, I understand that you're a 6, so I'm going to say this seriously.
Yes, I'm going to be serious.
I'm not going to make a joke about this.
No.
The worst thing you can actually do, I found, this is just something that I've experienced with people who are serious, is to tell them that they're serious.
Oh, right.
Right?
Oh, yes. Yeah, again, that's a sore point, right? Just like it is for the number 8, they don't want to have to explain the double entendre or the dry humor. Like, if you didn't get it, well, you're dumb. Oh, it's been a delightful conversation. We do need to close it at this point. If you've been listening and you have questions about humor or about the styles, or, hey, remember Hirsch's book? It's a 2-for-1 going on. So, selling the truth. If you please knock on our doors. We will greet you with bells on and, and warm welcomes. And so
Yeah.
signing off, this is Dr. Nancy Zier, the sales whisperer.
And Hirsch Repun, your personal brand builder. And
To
I
you.
wanted to say, sorry, I just wanted to say, so the two for one until Halloween at midnight is that you get my next book free, which is The Inevitable Yes, and that is going to be what I call the most positronic book ever written. So there, you in that book you can't make a mistake. So that's going to be a very interesting journey.
All right. To your sales success. See you next time.